So, how are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here. A little nervous, but thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to me when I think back on like doing things on camera and stuff. I don't know. I never would have thought I would. And I tried to like see how I could do, I don't know. It was not my favorite thing, but as you do it, it gets easier. So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree.
yeah. And I know you made that YouTube video. That's like huge. That's so scary.
I'm actually planning on making more.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good
Um,
for you.
yeah, so I actually dove into Wendy Bixby's LinkedIn module recently and completely redid my LinkedIn profile, and I've been starting to reach out. And so I'm thinking of putting out content of value, and that's going to include videos.
Yes, that's so good. It was so scary for me at first, but I promise it does get easier. Just like anything else in this entire process.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's so scary at first, and then you're like, and what's really kind of freaky is that I forget that my YouTube videos are like out there. And so now, like my boyfriend, his dad was like, "Oh yeah, I saw your YouTube video that was hilarious when you didn't have pants on." And I was
Oh God.
like, "Oh my God, I forget the whole world can see that," but whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
Hey Tabitha, hey Jenny. All right, sweet. So two other people have joined us. So why don't you kind of just jump into like who you are, how you started, just whatever like comes to mind when your little story.
Sure. So I'm a licensed lawyer. I've been licensed since 2010. I was never super excited about my job options in the law. It's very grueling. I think I've always had more of like this creative bent to my work. And so the last several years, I kind of was in a little bit of a dead end job that I wasn't enjoying. And it was a 9 to 5 in downtown LA. And I was going back and forth every day. And it was just taking like everything out of me. And I would write on the side for fiction. So I did love writing, and I have a background in like web design and things like that. And when I saw your course, I was just super interested. It was right up my alley. I mentioned in my review video that I didn't sign up right away. I don't think I was ready. I'd never signed up for an online course before, so I was a little skeptical, even though like you're my friend.
Oh yeah, we should
And
mention we actually know each other. Can I say that we know each other
yeah,
out from pole? So we
yep,
both pole dance. So and then also real quick, Tabitha just said she's a licensed attorney too, and like,
yeah, it's rough. um, so yeah, after you opened it up a second time is when I signed up, and I think I had enough time for the idea to sort of percolate in my mind and like sink in. And my job got to a point where I was just like more and more frustrated with it, and so I took the leap in February 2019. So it's been like about a year.
yeah.
Yeah. So right now I am 8 months full time. And this month is the first month where I'm switching from like growth and building to scaling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a mindset shift in that way too, because I spent so much time like building everything up, and now my focus is like, okay, like I've got this big foundation because everything like builds on itself. And now I'm like, all right, how can I make this more efficient? How can I make this work like even better, like the way I want it to work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's totally like building momentum is really like what's happening and especially in those first few months, and the first few months are the hardest because you're like, I don't see it like happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of doubt. Like I had so much doubt along the way, like in every single point. And that's why like I really enjoy or try to focus on like celebrating the things that I used to doubt that I
Uh,
actually accomplished. Cause then it's like, oh yeah, like I used to doubt myself, but look, I did it. I did these things. So even if I have doubts in the future, I'm like, well, here's my track record on my doubts.
right.
So it adds more and more confidence as you go.
Totally. And that's something like, because I still have doubt. And especially when I take on something new that I've never done before, I come up against procrastination and just like imposter syndrome. And I'm like, oh, and it's just so hard to get started on new projects that are like not familiar to you. And it just like helps as you like, I mean, because imagine like, you've been doing this for a year now. Imagine what you would feel like in like 5 years. And you just have to like look back on those things that I don't know, just like look at like the long list of things that you didn't think you're doubted that you could do, and then you did it, and it just keeps growing, and you're like, all right, and then you get to a point where like, I think I got this. Like, it's so
Oh, can I show you my business list, my business to-do list?
of course, yeah. Jenny, while you're looking, Jenny asked if you're going to keep your law license.
Yeah, about that. I'm actually at a point where I have to renew it for the year. I have two in two separate states. I just got my California one. I'm keeping it just because I'm local. I have another one in New Jersey. I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of like, because I can switch it back to retired. So I might do that for just one of my states. So we'll see. But
if you let it expire, do you have to take the bar again?
No, so when you go to retired, you're basically just like inactive, and then you can like reactivate it again if you want to.
Okay.
But it just stops like all the dues and everything because it can get kind of expensive.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I can't decide if it is advantageous or not. So I don't know if lawyers see that. And if they see that I still have an active license, do they think I'm still practicing law as well? Or so that's something that I'm still determining, and I haven't fully decided. But I think for this year, I will keep one of them active at least.
Okay. Tabitha, real quick, just said, I've switched my bar license in Indiana and DC to inactive, and I can't decide what to do with the USPTO. It still says patent attorney.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Tabitha, I don't know if you are focused on patent, like writing for patent lawyers, because that is quite a niche, and they do have a lot of content. So I don't know if like being listed as a patent attorney specifically, because that is, I think the patent bar is a special bar as well. Yeah, so science and technical writing, like that's an additional qualification on top of being a lawyer that I think would really appeal to like writing for patent and intellectual property lawyers. Yeah, it was a lot of work. Let me see here. Sorry for the.
You're good.
Oh, here we go. So this was my business to-do list, and now it's all crossed out.
Oh my gosh. Wait, that is so satisfying. That just like,
it is, right?
So good. And that was like for the last year, or?
Yeah, that was for the last, the 6 months of last year.
Wait, can I see it again?
Yeah. Let's see.
Wait, that's so satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at all those lines crossed out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, like I do recommend, I really like having things on paper. My dad, every time he hears it, he's like, use, OneNote, use Evernote. And I'm like, I like, the tactile, like.
Me too, yeah.
And that's one of my actually weekly things as well, is I have a bullet journal, and I'll do like my weekly schedule and like my to-dos for my clients, and I'll put like all the work I'm going to do during the day like into my schedule. But this is like my Sunday night thing, and so I'll actually like sit down and like look at my schedule and like put it all down, and that helps a lot. Yeah,
sitting down on Sunday nights and planning my week, and then also like kind of doing it a little bit at the end of my workday every day. I always plan what I'm going to do the next day, and that like they're so simple, but they have helped me tremendously and just like moving through things. And then also like the next morning, I never wake up and I'm like, what should I like work on today? I always like know what to like get right to work doing. So
I agree. That's really helpful. Like, I've had weeks where I failed to like plan ahead, and I actually woke up, I had like 1 or 2 days where I was like, do I even have work? Like I kind of felt down because I was like, where's my work? And then I realized I actually did have a lot of work, and
Yeah.
I was just like, oh crap, I should have done this
It's
before.
funny, those things seem so simple, but like when you come from like like a 9 to 5 job and like that stuff is kind of just handed to you, you have to learn how to put things in place to kind of like do that stuff yourself. And it's funny because actually those are things that I kind of forget that I do now, but like since doing the course and interacting with people and like hearing the questions that people have, I'm like, oh yeah, I do this little thing on Sunday nights.
Yep.
Might be
Yeah.
helpful because you see, I don't know, now it's like second nature and doesn't even
Right.
like seem like a thing. It's just like
Yeah.
what I do. So
Yeah. It's like when you start working out a lot and then you feel bad when you don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you're like, how did I like survive before when I wasn't
Right.
nap, when I wasn't like planning my weeks? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I'll go over kind of to the questions that people asked, and I know, like for you, you've talked a lot about mindset stuff, and somebody wanted to know, like, what mindset practices do you use so that you feel like you can operate like a knowledgeable business owner versus like a freelancer.
Yeah, for me, for mindset work, honestly, the thing that's helped the most has been my affirmations more than anything. I think there really is something about your own voice in your own words telling you positive things every morning that makes it like it just sinks in. Like there's no way that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So usually like in the mornings, like I have to get out of the house. Even if it's like I usually come back by noon, and then I spent all the afternoon in front of my workspace, which is great. But like in the mornings, I have to go to my coffee shop, and usually on the way there, I always listen to my affirmations in the car. And a lot of those have to do with the business mindset. The ones that have been like really important to me have been about like every step that I take like builds on itself and builds the future
Yeah.
that I want. So like just knowing that the work I do today is going to build exponentially for the next week and the next week, and whatever I do now is going to be there next week, and I will have done it. So that really is very powerful.
Yeah. A surprise thing for like the affirmations for me is like I catch now when I like talk shit to myself, you know?
Yeah,
And you're like, whoa, like,
so
it's
true.
not nice when you're like how you're talking to yourself. And that was also really telling. I don't know. I think everybody does that because like I'm really hard on myself. And I don't know, to be able to catch it and then have an affirmation that's like exactly the opposite and be like, no, like you're working really hard and you know this all builds. You made like something didn't work out ideally or you feel like you made a mistake. It's like really okay. Like
Yeah, it really does give you the tools to work against that negative voice. And I struggle with depression and anxiety. Like I've struggled with that for a lot of my life. So, depression and anxiety, like it gives you those ruminating negative thoughts, like those spiraling thoughts that just keep like, you just keep kind of like crapping on yourself. And so like having that to fight against it, like it just sort of reorients.
mm,
Um, and on top of that, I would recommend, like, I know it's not easy for everyone, but to have someone, at least one person on the outside, like to encourage you. And I think, the group is a great resource for this. But like I had a partner or have a partner who has been very encouraging through the whole way. And so even when I've doubted myself, he's pointed out like, look at how much you've accomplished, look at what you've done, like this is a really amazing thing. And just having that as well is really helpful.
I just got chills. Oh,
I
that's so
know,
good.
yeah.
It's so important. And it like crushes my heart when I hear about people who like, especially when they're like primary, like partner, spouse, whatever, is like doubting them or saying that they can't do it. And I'm just like, because that's
Yeah.
really hard when you are already doubting it yourself. And I just think I actually have started, and I should tell you about it. Have I told you about it? I go to these entrepreneur circles on Tuesdays,
Uh-huh.
um, and it's been really nice. it's like from 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 every Tuesday. And it's all these people who kind of work for themselves, and we get together. We talk about like business, but more so life. But it's so nice to just be around other people who, like, you hear them having the same like fears and doubts and struggles, and like, you know, you see them go through it, because you start to, like, if you go like month after month, you see them have like their ups and their downs.
Yeah.
And it's like so nice to like to know that you're not the only one going through that.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I've ever done that's actually like in person. Everything else has always been like getting that support online, and I think we're so lucky that we can get the support online. But there is nothing like that in person like support as well. So I think it's really important to find those people.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to find those people. But you should come to that. Have I told you that before?
No, I
haven't.
That's interesting.
Oh, okay. It's only been a few months, but I'll send you the information after. Yeah. We'd like it.
Yeah, thanks. The other thing I would say about mindset in terms of being a business owner that I've really come to develop, I've actually learned this. This was not conscious, but I started learning it, is to keep growing. Like, to keep working, you can change things. You don't have to have the perfect thing from the get-go. And I think I said this on one of my other posts, is you just need version 1.0. And, you know, like, I've allowed myself to go back to my website. I've edited the copy on my website as I found like my own voice. I've, you know, improved on that more and more. So like when I first put up my website, like I really went heavily on like yours. Like I took yours as an example. I really used like, of course, like all the copy was
for sure.
Own, but yeah, but it was very much like very similar. And now like I've definitely developed it more on my own. And even like my cold emails, like I'll go back, I'll try things like, yeah, everything doesn't have to be static. Like you don't have to like create one thing and then that's it. You know, you can always just keep working as you improve.
And that's actually something I've found out recently, especially even with like the morning routine stuff and the mindset work, is like I get bored of things too. And so like I have to go back and change it to like make my mind like engaged, you know? Yeah. So switching things up as like that's actually, I start to notice that like I can't pay attention to it as much anymore, or I'm like, when is this going to be over? And when I start doing that, I'm like, all right, I need to do something different. Cause like, I don't know, we just get bored of things that are the same too. So it's totally cool to like make it your own, to go back and update, to learn as you go. I mean, the great thing is you can get paid as you go. So yeah. So then the next, I'm going to jump back over to these questions, but guys who are here, if you have questions, like feel free to drop it in the chat. There's a little button at the bottom of the screen that says chat. The next one is how did you go about getting your first portfolio pieces?
Yeah, so putting my portfolio together was very challenging mentally. Like I had so much doubt, and like I think that was really like the first point for me where like the rubber hit the road, because like creating the website like was something that I'd done before and I knew how to do, and it was like really fun. But like portfolio pieces, I was like, oh my God, like, can I do this? Like, is it gonna be bad? Like stuff like that. So my first piece actually, you know, I kind of looked at like attorney websites, see what they talked about. The other thing I did was just like, you know, what am I interested in? What, you know, I always loved like IP, intellectual property law. So my first piece I think was about trademarks. Mm-hmm. And how they can be good for your business. And so that went pretty fast. And the first time, you know, I finished it and I was like, oh, awesome. I think I posted it in the group. I had like really nice feedback, which felt really great. And then my second one took so much longer and I had so much more doubt, which was so interesting. I was like, well, I did this one, but I'm never going to finish this one. And I'm never going to get to my third one. And I'm never going to do any of this. I'm never going to get to it. So that took me a lot longer, but I finally got through it. And then the third one was like much faster.
Yeah.
Got those
yeah. Building that portfolio is definitely brutal.
Yeah.
I had to like, I couldn't just write. Like the people who actually post in the group and just like write a piece on Medium, I'm always impressed by that because I had to like, I had to get a job from a job board or a content mill. Like I needed somebody to tell me what to write.
Yeah.
So yeah. Or like I had, you know, a couple friends and family that I reached out to and like offered to write for them, but I like could not come up with something to write for myself. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to like get a job and get
Yeah.
paid really shitty.
Right. The other thing that I did was I actually looked at like Reddit.
Oh.
Reddit has like a few subreddits that are about like legal questions, legal issues.
Mm.
So it's actually kind of a good place to see like what questions are people asking.
Wow. That is a part of the world and a resource that I do not use and I'm not familiar with, but people love Reddit. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, my partner loves it. But like I like dip in my toe every once in a while and then I get like overwhelmed and then I'm like, all right, I've had enough.
So I know so many people who like love Reddit. And I'm like, I don't even, okay.
I had it on my phone for a while and the problem is like it's one of those infinite scrolls. And I would just like get so sucked in. So I was like, all right, I can't do this.
Oh man, maybe it's a good thing then. Maybe because I'm sitting here thinking maybe I should like look into Reddit more. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's worth just like, you know, I think it's cool because there are unexpected resources there.
Really?
And people, yeah, like, yeah, it's interesting to see what people are talking about. And if you can think about it, there's probably a subreddit for it, which is fascinating.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. I'll definitely like look into it more.
And
Especially I like the idea of hearing questions, like the things people are wondering. Obviously, I'm always like wondering about that. So
yeah, like I like that because it's pretty organic that way. Like you're getting like what are people actually asking about, and I guess like Yahoo questions and stuff like that also helps. But that's like a Google, you can just Google it.
Yeah, cool. And another question is how many months after you finished your website did you like supplement your income or like start to make money? I think is what they mean.
I can't remember exactly when I finished it. Yeah, I think I finished around May. And then so I was doing kind of as a freelance attorney actually doing like document review projects. So on a case-by-case basis, you know, if there's a big litigation, they need people to like read all the documents and say, well, these are relevant, these aren't. Like it's like complete grunt work. It's so like tedious. Like I was like going over my mobile like data every month because I was just like constantly on Instagram. Like, but yeah, so like that was on a project by project basis and my project ended in May. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm going to focus. I'm not going to apply for any more. And I think it took me about 2.5 months. I paid back the course mid-August. And then from then I've had every month I've supplemented my income.
Yeah. Nice. What was I going to ask? Oh, I'll go over real quick to Tabitha's questions. She's asking if you still consider yourself an attorney and how do you introduce yourself to outsiders?
Yeah, that's also changing. It's hard. Yeah, you know, recently I actually did introduce myself for the first time as like straight out, like I'm a copywriter or I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Which felt really cool.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is I'm also embracing the side of myself that's like a fiction writer as well. So I'm embracing the writer in me that's like writer of all sorts of things. As well as for the attorney question, I guess it depends. Like I say like, well, I'm a writer. I'm a lawyer also, but like I write for lawyers now, is how I kind of put it. Yeah.
I love that question because most people have no idea what a copywriter is. If you say I'm a copywriter, there's like one of two reactions. It's like, oh, like
right.
or it's like, oh, like, yep. All right, I know what that is. And and it's always so funny to me to see like what I'm gonna get. I also just sometimes say I'm a writer. I kind of love to like fly under the radar. My boyfriend's actually often like, he's like, you like, why do you just say you're a writer? I was like, I don't know. I kind of like that it's so ambiguous and people have no idea like what that means. And if they want to know more, they'll ask more. But like most people are like, oh, okay, cute.
Right.
That's cute.
Yep.
Oh, that's hilarious. So I would love to hear from you, like if you're open to sharing about like, I don't know, copywriting versus like being a lawyer. Like, why did you choose it? People think of being a lawyer as like a really like good, stable, you know, well-earning job. And so I would just love to hear like why you decided to like forego that and chose copywriting.
I think that's an interesting impression that people have, and I had that impression as well. I kind of, I come from, I'm an immigrant. My family's immigrants, and we come from the immigrant line of thinking, which is like, it's a joke, like doctor, lawyer, engineer. Like those are the three professional areas that your parents usually want you to go in. And I wasn't going to be a lawyer or a doctor. I wasn't going to be an engineer. So I went to law school. And I went to law school in 2007 to 2010. And 2010 was when the economy crashed. And actually, like, as I was graduating, there were so many, like the Wall Street Journal published this article about how right now is the worst time to graduate from law school ever. Because there were so many applicants. So many people go to law school. They don't necessarily want to be a lawyer, but like, they tell you that if you have a law degree, you can like apply it in so many other ways. But then like you get to the other side and you're like, well, what other ways does it apply? I'm not so sure. And so like a lot of people imagine like the lawyer lifestyle, which is like the 6-figure, like hardworking lawyer. And they're like, I had friends who went into big law, which is what we call that. And, they would be tweeting from their offices at 10 p.m. on a Saturday. And that's not even an exaggeration. So if you're willing to like, if you can, and you're willing to work that hard, but a lot of people also say it's like, it's a race to eat cake, to eat more cake. You're just like working hard and hard and hard and hard. And it's just like a grind and grind. And the big law life like just takes a lot out of you. So if you're not in the big law life, there's a lot of attorneys who aren't actually making that much, or they're making a regular living, 5 figures, like just like anyone else. And then you have like the solo practitioners and small firms, and they're actually like struggling to get clients and they're struggling to stay afloat. And then you have like people like me, and there's so many people who are in like the document review world, and that's like complete grunt work. Like you're completely at the mercy of whatever projects are out there. Like you're completely replaceable. Like the conditions are awful. Like I was crammed in doing overtime 10 to 12 hours a day in a room with 25 other people in desks. Like, yeah, like, yeah. So it's not like this golden ticket. Like it is like, yeah, it's pretty grueling, and it's a hard way to make a living like anything else. So for me, like finding a way to write instead and like nurture my creative side and work with my creative side, like that was definitely something that I've always wanted and really fit.
Awesome. And then the flexibility to like grow on your own terms, that's like, I'm assuming a big part of it.
Yeah, for me, like I have both a carrot and a stick. Like the carrot, the carrot is like the life I want to build for myself, which I'm making real bit by bit, and the life that I'm actually living now, which feels kind of cool to say. But the stick is like, no, I can't go back. I can't go back to that, So that's been like a dual motivation for me.
Right. No, it's so true. I actually remember that when I got to a point where I was like, and it was very early on starting out, actually. I think it was probably like the first 3 months I decided to be a writer, and I quit my job or whatever. And I was just like, I can never go back to a 9 to 5. Like it was like, that's not an option anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a crazy feeling. I can't even imagine that now. Now it's like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no way. I would figure something out before I went back to a 9 to 5 for sure.
Right. Yeah. And for me, like I'm an introvert. I've always like worked really independently. Like my partner, he used to freelance as well. And I remember like I would call him we would text each other, and his text would like sound kind of low, and I'd be like, hey babe, like have you gotten out of the house today? Like have you seen other people? Have you gone to the coffee shop? And like he actually like got a full-time job now, and he's like in an office and he thrives. He loves it.
Oh, whoa,
He loves
yeah.
everything about it. Like, and for me, I'm like, nope, no thanks. Like I'm
Yeah.
very happy like with my coffee shop life, with my dog at home. Like this is perfect.
Yeah, that's so wild. Yeah, I could see that, how some people would need that. I just have to build it. Like we were just talking before everyone hopped on, like I moved into a new apartment in the last like month and a half. I've been working from home almost every day, and it's like catching up to me. Like I gotta go working space because I'm just like, I gotta get out of the house. I need to see people. I need to interact with humans. Like I get real hermity if I don't like get out. It's not good.
Yeah.
So you gotta force it.
Yeah, and about that, like figuring out your own routine is really important, and everyone's is different. Like, you know, like in your module, you have examples, but I think that's a good place. You don't have to copy that. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Like you can at the beginning if you don't have any idea for yourself.
Right.
But I think it's really important to remain flexible and like listen to your own habits, your body's like natural rhythm, like when you wake up, when you like, I'm not really an early riser. Like I sleep like midnight to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like that's perfect. Like some people get up much earlier, but that's been like my consistent. So like a lot of like figuring out my daily schedule, my morning routine has been like listening to my own needs and my own like preferences and things like that.
No, it's so true. It's so true. But you get to do it and you get to figure it out, but it does take a little bit of process of time to like know what works for you. And then sometimes you got to get on yourself. Like again, like I don't know, when I get like that, when I get all like extra hermity, I'm like it's really hard to make a switch. Like I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to a co-working space. I want to like be in my pajamas and work from my couch, but like I know it's not like the best for me. And so I have to like get back into it. But once I'm there, I'm like, whoa, this is so much better.
Yeah.
I'm like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for, having this conversation. I think it's super important for people to hear like different people's stories and like what worked for you. You've always been so great at sharing, your whole like update posts are incredible and they help people so much.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to real quick wrap up with like Tabitha was talking about not wanting to go back to law after having a bunch of surgeries. And Jenny said, thank you for having this conversation. It totally relates to my experience as an occupational therapist. So
I think there is one question from Stephanie.
Oh, I don't see that.
During that time between May and August, when you completed your website and got up and running, was most of your energy spent on cold emailing? Did you use social? Did you blog on your own website? So for me, yes, cold emailing. That was where like almost all my attention went at the beginning. And that's really how I built things up. So like I got my portfolio pieces, I got my website, and then for like the first couple months, they really did stay static while I was focusing on cold emailing. And the reason being, like, you kind of need data to know if it's working, right? Like, and the other thing is cold emailing really does work. I got all my clients at the beginning from cold emailing. There was actually a moment where, like a month, where I signed up for another course and I let cold emailing like fall by the wayside. And so that led to like a little bit of a low spell of work. Yeah, a lull. And so I learned my lesson. I was like, well, cold emailing is really important. I started using social, like I had set up my LinkedIn, but I hadn't really used it. The social and LinkedIn, like I'm only now, like really, like I really dove into Wendy's module. As for my blog, I started doing that little by little. I think I started blogging for myself in the fall, maybe September, October. And you know, at the beginning it was just like one or two, like it looked a little empty. But now I have 10 posts. You know, just like I said, it all builds on itself. And I feel like every post I put up now, like I put up more internal links to my site, and I can like link from my LinkedIn, I can link from wherever, and I can like add value that way. So it's just a matter of like building.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Stephanie says, thank you. Glad you caught that. I told her. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for talking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks
have
everyone for joining.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day.
You too.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.